ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV18 present India Risk Management Awards, Risk Masterclass.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ritu Bhandari. Welcome to the Risk Masterclass 2020 under the aegis of the India Risk Management Awards, brought to you by ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company and CNBC TV18. This year, successive lockdowns around the world have also forced businesses to rethink their risk management strategies, remodel their businesses in many cases, and stay up to speed as far as compliance and safety issues are concerned. Geopolitical risks have also been on the rise as a result of the pandemic, and therefore global supply chains have often seen disruption. As India embraces the fourth industrial revolution, where the old, complex and formerly closed environments, solutions as well as systems will meet new connected and open ones, risk frameworks are also set for a tremendous change. So what's really important in this scenario? Well, to be alert for one and implement the right kind of controls, take swift action to mitigate risk and really stay at the front of this multifaceted crisis. This Risk Masterclass will help you do just that. Today, our focus is on many critical sectors of the economy, including IT, ITES, metals and mining, telecom, insurance, healthcare, and more. So let's kick off the evening by learning a little bit about some of the new age risks, affordable risk management strategies, and of course, technology solutions that can be used for risk mitigation in a boundaryless organizations. And for this executive address, I'd like to welcome Sahil Kangotra, Vice President, Corporate Solutions Group, ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company. Over to you, Sahil.
Thanks, Vidhu. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV18, I extend a warm welcome to you. Thanks all for connecting with us today. We believe in partnering with our clients to ensure that they are equipped with the best risk management and mitigation solution to effectively handle these risks. Few of them will be insurable, whereas some may not be insurable, but we can work along with our clients to find innovative and cost-effective ways of reducing risk. Over the years, we have positioned ourselves as risk solution provider and not just an insurer who provides you with coverage capacity and settles the claims fast. With this endeavor, we have introduced marine transit risk prevention activity, IoT for fire hydrants, wellness solution in health space, virtual risk assessment using drones, and many more. This approach has led to reduction of claims and has been really appreciated by our customers. One of the unique offerings that I would like to highlight is transit risk for temperature-sensitive cargo, where we can monitor movement of the cargo 24/7 across the globe and prevent or minimize losses using GPS technology. We believe it will play a very vital role during COVID-19 vaccine transit. This brings me to the last part of my speech. While most of us have put immediate measures in place to ensure business continuity, let's understand this in detail from our eminent speakers and power pack panel today as how they manage this for their organizations. I'm sure each one of us will learn a lot from their insights.
Thank you very much, Sahil. Well, up next, we have our keynote speaker for this Risk Masterclass. She's someone who's at the helm of affairs of India's first private healthcare provider. She has been at the forefront of facing and managing risks while aiding the war on COVID-19 along with her tireless teams of healthcare workers. So let's hear it from Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, Joint MD of the Apollo Hospitals Group and President of FICCI. Dr. Reddy.
Hello. Now, how has COVID-19 improved access to healthcare across the country? This is a very interesting question because the pandemic opened up a plethora of opportunities which will lead to a transformed healthcare delivery system, including newer care delivery models, enhanced use of digital tools and other technologies, a greater focus on preventive and primary care along with point of care and home-based testing, restructured facilities and operating models, and to boost the local manufacturing as well as R&D for products and treatment, all focused on better health outcomes in the country. So all these are changes which came upon us during the COVID period, but I think will definitely stay with us. To tackle the highly infectious disease that we have been able to create additional health infrastructure, enhanced human resources, and indigenous production of critical medical equipment and consumables such as PPEs, N95 masks, ventilators, and the diagnostic capability, and all this in a period of a few months. COVID also opened up the opportunity for indigenization of medical devices, including testing equipment, indigenous kit manufacturing, and today the country has 90 COVID-19 test kit manufacturers and have also been able to augment the production of highly specialized equipment like ventilators. COVID has also produced and provided opportunities to explore new business models and avenues focused on digitalization. Home healthcare witnessed a paradigm shift with people using helplines, teleconsults, home sample collection, remote monitoring of asymptomatic as well as positive patients who were mildly symptomatic. And an increased focus on primary and preventive healthcare has really been one of the most important aspects, as well as a host of authorized or unauthorized so-called immunity boosters.
Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta Reddy. Appreciate you joining us here today. And of course, it's truly commendable how healthcare workers around the world have carried on against the pandemic all of this year. Up next, we're shifting the focus on to technology. Digital transformation has seen tremendous acceleration in 2020 and has been the backbone of keeping businesses as well as personal connections alive in these times of social distancing. So let's hear more in a special address from Vijay Anush Narasimhan. He's the Chief Financial Officer of Cisco India and SAARC. Welcome, Vijay.
It's a pleasure to be able to address the distinguished group or forum of individuals and business leaders. We are going to talk about a topic that is so intrinsic and close to us, if I may say, in the last few months. As Winston Churchill says, we should never let go a crisis to waste. This is the chance for all CFOs to look at operational investments, where we could improve, where we are actually spending a lot of redundant cost. This is the window of opportunity. Cisco, for example, when we looked at all our customers who are actually undergoing changes to their own models, which are moving to hybrid, they were working on a lot of automation. We also moved a lot of our products into a service model. What happens with that is there is more predictability of revenue for us. At the same time, the CapEx pressure on the clients is much, much lower. Finally, the CFO needs to be worried about how to manage risks, be it with suppliers, partners, and customers. Scenario building continuously, working closely with them. The environment of fraud. Today, there are a lot of layoffs. The employees are very disengaged. These things can actually lead to frauds within the company. The CFO needs to invest more on internal controls. We can't let them down in terms of how we're trying to do this. Finally, the cyber attacks. We need to be clear. There is a clear investment going into security. We adopt all the latest technologies to safeguard assets and our data from these sort of threats. End of the day, it's important that we continue to be focused on operational improvements and cash focus to continue through this crisis. Given the uncertainty and depth of the duration of this COVID, CFOs have to continuously engage in scenario planning to identify where risks are likely to impact their company.
Thank you very much for sharing your insights and experiences, Vijay. Appreciate you joining us here today. Next up, I would like to invite Prag Vadhavan, who's the Executive Director of PwC India, to share his findings on how the risk management landscape is evolving and also give us an overview of creating a best-in-class risk management program. Welcome, Prag.
Thanks, Midhu. It's a pleasure to be connected with all of you. Look forward to sharing some insights on the risk management practices that we are seeing across. What really is risk management? And why companies have to adopt it. I will not use any jargons to define what is risk management, what companies should be doing about it. To put very, very simply, it's a way through which organizations determine the chances of not meeting their business objectives. And I'll again give you a very simple example. At a given point in time, an organization may have an objective that they want to grow in the emerging markets. Now, through an enterprise risk management function, they'll be able to determine what could go wrong in the marketplace, which can impact their growth in those emerging markets again. Risk management is not a compliance, it is not an audit function, it is a function that prepares you for future. And it has number of benefits attached to it. Very simply, one of the risks is that it gives you peace of mind. It gives you reasonable assurance if the management will be able to meet the business objectives that's been identified. It reduces the surprise element for the organization as well, and largely it gives comfort to the board that things are working largely in place.
Well, that was very, very insightful. Thank you very much, Prag, for joining us here today.
ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV 18 present India Risk Management Awards, Risk Masterclass. ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV 18 present India Risk Management Awards, Risk Masterclass.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we now have a power-packed panel discussion of industry leaders, and they're joining us here for a discussion on boundaryless risk management for critical sectors of the Indian economy. Let's welcome our set of panelists today. Alok Agarwal, Executive Director of ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company. Vineet Kumar, Group Chief Information Security Officer at CK Birla Group. Venkatraman GS, CFO of Subex. Vallabh Mundra, CFO of Hexagon Capability Center India, and Amit Harlalka, Deputy CFO at ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India. Welcome everyone. Well, COVID-19 has indeed shown us that the future is going to be far more boundaryless, and we are getting there far earlier than we anticipated. So Alok, let me begin by asking you first. Traditional risks were, of course, all about manpower safety, about plant and machinery, health hazards, safety on the work floor. But in this new normal that we are coping with right now and in the new world order at large, what are some of the biggest and most emerging risks and trends in risk management that you are seeing? What are your conversations with C-suite leaders looking like across sectors and across scales?
So what happened, Ritu, is that before COVID, in the last 2-3 years, we saw the risks that were being perceived by various corporates to be different than what it was earlier. So, for example, climate risk and cyber security risk. These were the two risks which had come up the chain, and they were one of the most risks which were perceived by the corporates. But post COVID-19, it was quite interesting that two risks which were relatively lower in the pegging order suddenly came up in the pegging order. One of them was talent risk and the other was supply chain risk. The cyber security risk continued to remain as a high on priority. Why talent risk is one that people had to retrain people to work in this new environment, work from home. And why supply chain risk? People earlier used to diversify their supply chain so as to bring down the risk. But this very diversification used to increase the risk because any country which was COVID affected was basically becoming a risk as far as supply chain is concerned. So if one of the countries from where you are getting a crucial part or equipment or something is COVID affected, your entire production goes haywire. So these were the new trends that were visible during the COVID times.
Venkat, if I can come to you, the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of digital technologies by at least a few years, in fact. While all of this is great for growth, for agility, new fraud and security risks are also emerging. A lot of these risks are to be dealt with. Organizations are at crossroads on how to handle some of these. How can organizations prepare for these in the long run? Telcos and communication service providers in particular, and other businesses as well.
The CXOs of all of these businesses will have to build a digital trust, because I think what's happening with many of our recent initiatives, and as you have seen even with the COVID rollout, I think the trust element is extremely important. And with 5G, even more so, because the way the technology is working, unlike the earlier models where the data used to go to the cloud, here now because of the edge computing, the the cloud is coming closer to the data. So therefore, the risk elements are far bigger, and the kind of solutions required are also different. Right now, a lot of focus on the network of the 5G security has been taken care, but the application level securities have not been fully addressed. And that's where, if you look at the biggest use case for 5G is IoT security. And since we are in that space, and I can tell you for sure in IoT security, the number of zero-day attacks is something like 150 a month. So I think the kind of solutions companies will have to adopt to ensure that you're not in some of those, and therefore IoT security solutions to be in place, which is using latest technologies in terms of behavioral, AI, ML, is extremely important. I think so. Therefore, communication services providers will have to look at all of this in terms of how do they want to address it. And more so with 5G, what also happens is a number of partners who need to come on board for these solutions to be rolled out to the enterprises. So therefore, how do you stitch a solution, a security solution where you address risks, where these number of partners are coming together, and also monitor and manage them seamlessly, is what is going to be a critical element for communication service providers to look at.
Right. Indeed, like you rightly said, collaboration is going to be critical, for the ecosystem to really thrive in the 5G era. Unique, if I may come to you, like Alok mentioned earlier, supply chain risk is something that is top of the mind for everybody around the world at this point in time. A pandemic of this nature that led to successive lockdowns around the world, but particularly hard on manufacturing companies. What kind of risk management did it take to ensure supply chain and production continuity throughout this year, especially at different geographies?
Okay. So thank you, Ridul. Actually, you're right. COVID-19 has shown us something which is never thought of, and the fellow panelists has really a very valid point. So I was reading actually about the World Depression Day of 1930s. Those who have not heard, for the reference, during that time, the economy got slashed, and the businesses were suffering from major challenges. Business got failed. During 1930s, that time the challenge was only business and economy. Now in COVID-19, it is a matter of life and death, and there is no reverse gear. Secondly, we are in digital world. With COVID-19, there is a different risk which was not there. That is also linked to a digital risk. That is one of the challenges nowadays.
Right. Okay, so let me shift focus now to the metals and mining sector. Of course, times have been particularly tough there as well. Amit, there have been operational disruptions, commodity prices have been volatile. Give us a sense of your risk management strategies in these times, and can pricing related risks be managed better in the future?
Thank you, Mridu. Thank you for having me on this panel. ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel acquired SR Steel in December 2019. And we were ramping up our production. And in March 2020, the COVID stopped. And we were running our car at 100 kilometers per hour. And suddenly we had to slow it down to 10 kilometers per hour. It was a very serious situation for all operating units, and especially in a situation where demand is zero. We had never encountered a situation where everything is shut down and the demand comes to a standstill. During this time, we took a lot of initiatives to manage the situation. I would bucket the risk mitigation strategy into 4 parts. First and foremost, what we did was we formed a crisis management team and a war room, which was manned 24/7. The second major thing that we did during this time was to ensure the health and safety of our employees, the community in which we operate, and prepare SOPs, standard operating procedures for COVID guidelines. This was very critical because, as you can understand, in an industrial setup, we have more than 18 to 20,000 people. Most of them are blue-collar employees, and it became very critical for us to ensure the health and safety of our employees. The third area where we started to focus a lot was on the business and financial scenario analysis. I remember in the month of April, when I started to prepare the financial scenario analysis for our business for the next 6 months, we had numerous scenarios which we prepared on shipment, EBITDA, cash flow, productivity, etc. And we were able to use this scenario analysis to make judicious decisions at that point in time, to ensure that shipments and EBITDA was in line with the most profitable scenarios for us as a business. And last but not the least, what we did was communication, and more communication. As you mentioned, one of the critical things which happened during this time was the price risk. The commodity prices, the foreign currency exchange were all moving in a very volatile way. The critical thing for us was to ensure that we have appropriate hedges in place for currency, for natural gas, for commodities, to ensure that the business risks are mitigated.
Right. Okay. Very interesting insights there from all of you on your respective risk management strategies in these difficult times. Let me also come to Ballav. Going forward, how can global capability centers really deal with financial risks and ensure stability and liquidity in weak economic cycles? And, how do you see advanced analytics helping in this respect, particularly for upgrading internal audit systems?
What we initially did to mitigate some of that was we prepared a regular cash flow statement, anticipating our forecasting what our cash requirements would be, with a lot of simulation built into that, so that if a scenario 1 comes, how do we react to it? If a scenario 2 comes, how do we react to it? So that we are prepared for any sort of contingency which may come our way. So in my opinion, companies can be classified into 3 categories, basically evolvers, followers, and observers. Evolvers are those companies which probably rely significantly on technology to support their internal audit function. Followers would be who are slow adopters, and observers are who are either yet to start or are on the sidelines to really understand and really assess the real benefit of the internal audit function, analytics in the internal audit function, and thereby initiate the next set of steps. So, according to a study, around 15 to 20% of the organizations would fall in the evolver category, whose primary objective of the GRC program, that is Governance, Risk and Compliance program, is to continuously evaluate their risk and also monitor the complex environment in which the business is operating.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here today and sharing those very, very valuable insights into boundaryless risk management in the new normal. Thanks very much for joining us here today. Goodbye.
ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV 18 present India Risk Management Awards, Risk Masterclass. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.